Ladies and gentlemen,
You can look at the screen and ask if everyone's there.
just tell me when to start.
You can start.
Ladies and gentlemen of Rajagiri fraternity and anyone else watching this YouTube live broadcast, welcome to Logos, Intelligent Conversation. Before we move on to the main part of this episode, we'd like to have a brief, an address by Father Alex to just get us kick-started. Let's take a moment.
Welcome. Good evening. I don't know, check it. Yeah.
Dear Rajagirians, I am proud that Rajagirians nationwide and cross borders continue to connect with each other and explore avenues to make it a difference that will be beneficial to alumni, current students, and the institution itself. I am happy to announce the launch of Logos, an intelligent discussion with SMEs. Please make the advantage of these forums and continue to share and grow. We support your initiative and wish each one of you only the best.
So this is going to be a series of webinar knowledge sessions towards creating value for the Rajagiri fraternity. The program is driven by HR alumni of Rajagiri management programs, and the objective is, however, to bring together the alumni and expertise from all domains to create value in the fraternity. So in our fast-moving world, our jobs are changing in a rapid way, and so does the way we work. The demands of the 21st century VUCA world is competitive and fast-moving. So as long as we have humans working, we have the challenge of mental health too. So in India, for example, we have a stigma around mental health. It is not welcomed and supported, but rather intimidated at most times. So the World Health Organization, WHO, celebrates World Mental Health Day on the 10th October 2017, and the theme for this year is mental health at workplace. Over the last 15 years, globalization and liberalization has opened up the economy for several nations, and the opportunities have made jobs possible. Growth, performance, etc. has become the key words in employment. The opportunities has also seen a depletion in the quality of mental health, and it has been picked up as an active area of concern, calling out for attention to both psychiatric social workers and management professionals in HR function to look at resolving it before it gets late. Let's take a look at the situation. We have about 10% of the world's workforce globally taking time off for depression. 32% of a surveyed workforce in Japan suffers from anxiety. 27.9% of Chile's workforce reported stress and depression. 2005 to 2015 saw depression cases go up by 18%, and 46% of India's workforce surveyed have work-related anxiety and stress issues. So as a first, this episode looks to address the topic relevant to both management professionals and social work professionals as well. So with fast-growing evidence on issues of mental health at workplaces, we have with us today an expert whose work is deep on this topic. And he is Dr. E Aravind Raj, Associate Professor, Department of Psychiatric Social Work at NIMHANS, Bangalore. He is a double master's and a doctorate in psychiatric social works, and has also several significant experience in disaster management as well. He's conducted over 300 workshops, engaged in government and international projects, supplies faculty to government and NGO agencies. Further, has several publications to its credit, both domestic and international. So, welcome to this webinar, Arvind, and we look forward to an engaging
Good
conversation
evening.
with you.
Yes.
So, to
Good
begin with,
evening.
very good evening. So, to begin with, we would
Good
like
evening.
to know you a little better. And it'll be great if you can share with us an incident from your younger self where you rationalized and decided that psychiatric social work is going to be your career destination. How did you go about it?
All right. All right. Like to begin with, let me be a little practical because as everyone, when we start off our post graduation, we may not be really having this kind of focus. But fortunately, getting into social work with a search for psychology and stuff, we also had the opportunity to get field placements. There, we used to go to these hospitals where persons with mental illness or mental disorders, and that's where we thought, like, this is one considerable population which we need to provide attention. And then, of course, our own mentor, their help, I was able to get the focus over there. And then NIMHANS was the right place. And even in NIMHANS, I was lucky enough to be part of community mental health team. Like, for example, if there are 10% of the population, 9% become that 10%. So it's also for people with problems within the community. So that's one thing which again keeps me going in this particular area, and we can tap these kind of resources. And one such area is this workplace where there's a lot of need for providing not just curative services, providing some opportunities on prevention of stress as well as promoting mental health in the workplace, which will ultimately increase the productivity of the individuals who are working there. And that's the reason it keeps me going in the same area of community mental health. Yeah.
Awesome. So, when you decided to become a psychiatric social worker, how did your family welcome it?
Even now, they do not know what is that I'm doing. considering the background of that is my parents, who my mom is a homemaker. Even when I chose social work, she used to just tease me. You should have taken some other subject. I am not even able to tell my relatives what subject you are studying. So that's the general sort of thing among the people, and that is one thing which we need to try and break that in our process of providing interventions in the community, especially for social work as well as mental health.
Right. If you don't mind me asking you a personal question, are you married, doctor?
Yeah.
So how did your your in-laws agree to get their daughter married to you? They must have said, "Oh, this man is mad and he's also treating mad people. Why will I give my daughter to this man?"
And luckily, their daughter is also from the same profession. So to answer that question, we both were studying at NIMHANS.
Let's get into a little more deeper. Into this topic as such. So, irrespective of the competence, proven achievement backgrounds of certain people, some of them come from IITs and IIM, some of them are top performers in their schooling at the background, and they're considered as smart all their lives. We find that high performers are burning out. Or sometimes for some people midlife crisis has been approaching and they have their own related issues around that. A lot of them are developing general anxiety disorder. How do we identify this within a workplace context?
Even before identifying that, to answer your first part of the question, like high achievers, high performers, for example, some of the statistics shows most of the CEOs of multinational companies are under antidepressants, which means that they are stressed. And the burnout has nothing to do with the intelligence. Generally, what they say is burnout is something which happens when you do certain things monotonously without having a break. Probably it may not have its impact For example, if you could show the slide, can you show the number 7 or something? Is it possible?
Yeah.
4. Oh, sorry. Slide number 6. Slide number 6.
Slide number 6. Okay.
So it talks about various symptoms of burnout.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not about who's going to get burnout. There is a possibility for anyone who's working regularly, monotonously, without any break. There are chances for them to get burnout. But how one has to identify the burnout matters, because most of the time people do not even know that they are burnt out and they continue to work in that situation. So this particular checklist, what I'm showing now, probably it's visible to the viewers. So that would be a kind of alarm for these people who are working, so that they need to understand, yes, I need to take a break. And sometimes people think, to avoid burnout, I need to do the same thing in a creative manner. It's not so. It's taking a compulsory break from your monotonous work is the one way to get out of the burnout.
Right.
Creatively doing things, something different. Okay.
Right.
Hope they are able to see those symptoms.
Yes, they are. So with the
so
alarming,
yeah.
sure. So with alarming statistics
Yeah.
growing on, at a really strong pace over the last 15 years, are there certain
Yes.
insights that you can call out that have been, what do you call it, from your experience perspective, have been rare, or you find that these are the top 3 insights that I've gained in the last 15 years on this topic?
See, even you were quoting statistics from Japan.
Yeah.
On one side, development happens, but also along with the development, especially for so-called, 100% literacy, where economic growth is fast. For example, Japan is a good example, and that is the place where we also have this phenomenon called as karoshi. Karoshi is something, death by overwork. So death by overwork is what makes, the government of Japan to make these people who are working in the government not doing, extra work, overtime. So that's one thing which we need to be aware. Development, yes, it happens, but over a period of time, though there is a productivity in that particular organization, the productivity of the individuals keeps coming down. For example, we call it as something called as disability adjusted life years. Disability adjusted life years includes, yes, the person comes for work, but the kind of productivity which happens from him is much lesser than what he had in the past. And you can see a lot of frequent absenteeism. There can be a kind of substance use among these persons. These are all some of the things which we need to track from the mental health perspective, not just only looking into the development. Yes, the company might develop because they might have more employees, but if you look into the mental health of each and every employee, these are all the areas which we need to understand. For example, we keep doing such stress management programs for corporates, for example, Accenture and other software companies. These are the employees who don't just come up during the meetings, but they will be calling me individually, and they would be talking about all these stresses or the reactions what they have. So these are all the individual level interventions which we need to consider when someone is working in an organization, and also someone has to create that platform in any organization where one can go and talk to that particular person whenever they are under stress or burnt out.
Right. So let's take an India perspective. So India reports that 46% of its workforce that have been surveyed suffers from work-related anxiety. So are there any India-specific reasons, maybe cultural, socio-economic, or whatever it may be, that you can throw some perspectives on as to why this number is so high in India?
The number is so high for reasons you can again go back to slide number 8. Slide number 8, if possible.
In
You could see the
progress.
slide.
Yeah, it just happening. Give me a second. Go ahead, doctor.
Yes. See, I put a question. Are you assertive? Are you submissive? Or are you aggressive? See, most of the time in our culture, we are on the either of those extremes. Either we
Hmm.
are too aggressive, fight with the employer, just very impulsively getting out of the organization, or we are too submissive, taking on everything without saying no to the person, thinking that he will feel bad, and ultimately we are the one who will be ending up with stress. But that middle part, assertiveness is what which is lacking among the people, because most of the time, if you could go to the next slide, it talks about assertiveness in which are all the areas one has to be assertive. For
That is slide
example,
number 9.
slide number 9. Yeah.
Okay.
Slide number 9 talks about, am I assertive enough to ask for help?
Okay.
You know, am I assertive enough to say no? No meaning to say not in an aggressive manner. See, this is what is my, for example, sometimes at family you would have planned for a movie, and here your boss would be asking to work overtime. There you need to be assertive rather than being submissive. And what happens when you're submissive? You work at office, but all your mind will be at home. So
Right.
both of the places you will not be there. Can I politely tell my boss, can I go and can I finish the work tomorrow? I will definitely finish it tomorrow.
Right.
That kind of assertiveness, what is missing. So assertiveness is just not for saying no, also to seek help whenever you are under stress, also to for example, see, 10th one, asking questions, making a request. Am I assertive enough? Most of the time we are submissive, or sometimes because of the too much of submissiveness, sometimes we just burst out in the form of aggressiveness, which also spoils the interpersonal relationship.
Right.
If you
Right.
compare
True.
the Indian context and the Western context, you can really see the difference, where most of the people over there are more of assertive. I'm talking from the mental health perspective, not
Right.
from the other administrative perspective.
Hmm.
And that assertiveness leads to better management of stress compared to submissiveness or aggressiveness. So that's
Yeah.
one thing which I would like to say here. Because anyway, these slides we can send it to the participants so
Sure.
that they
Sure.
will be able to know which are the areas which they can be assertive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting observation. I mean, just going back a bit, uh, i- with India being so diverse and each culture being
Yes.
either paternalistic or maternalistic, depending on
Yeah.
how matriarchal or patriarchal how the society has
Hmm,
been,
hmm.
the fact that it's driven either aggression or submission is driven right from childhood. It's had a
Submissive.
very long-standing
Yes.
effect into the adulthood,
Yes. Yes.
and that also comes from the fact that if the
Yes.
boss is very pushy, and if
Yes.
you're not able to stand back and say, listen, this is not done, it's just the max that I can take,
Yeah.
you need to back off a bit
Yeah.
in its own nice way, it becomes that they
Yeah.
bottle it up, the pressure building, and at a certain point in time it goes completely berserk. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting observation
And
that you've made.
let me just add one more point. It was not there from the it's not there from the beginning. For
Hmm.
example, when India was an completely agrarian society, both men and women were working equally,
Right.
and both of them were assertive to each other. When
Yeah.
when when industrialization started, and when only men started earning, staying back, and when the economic independence was not there with women, all the submission started from women's side,
Right.
and then the aggression started from the men's side. So the way you were talking about globalization, liberalization, all these things have these areas of mental health, at least in the Indian culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. uh, just going back to a global perspective, so
Yeah.
a survey in UK shows that
Mm.
44% of the people working suffering from work-related stress, they seem
Mm.
to be continuously performing well in their duties and discharging their duties at all points in time.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
How do you see employers acknowledging that there is a stressful environment, or the people are actually very burnt out? How do the
Ah.
employer? In your experience, how have you seen employers acknowledging the issue exists?
See, let me give my own example even before going to asking you to go to the slide number 5. Probably you can keep it prepared. My example, for example, we used to have this community mental health programs in industries,
Hmm.
and we see a lot of substance use in these mechanical industries, and we very well know that with all statistics and other things. But
Right.
when we sent them a letter requesting them to organize some awareness programs free of cost, saying that we are from NIMHANS to do something good for their employees, they outrightly say no, because it will affect the image of their company. Because if they have a program on substance use disorder, then they will come to know that there are so many people who are drinking in their company. So rather what we did was, it was a lesson learned for us. We did the same thing in a different manner. Like we spoke about harmonizing personal, professional and familial life, like more in terms of preventive and promotive strategy. In that, we brought in this particular area of substance use and other things. So this is about how to convince the employers. But if you see from a scientific perspective in slide number 5, any time though the employers would be talking only from the productivity point of view, productivity of the employees for the company's sake. What about the productivity of the employees at the personal level and family level? And actually it deteriorates over a period of time. If you could see that slide, initially whatever the stressors, because of the stressors, there will be some sort of disturbances at the physical, emotional and the relational level, which if not addressed would lead to actual health and mental health problems, which over a period of time it reduces the productivity, not only at the work level, also at the personal level. And that's where you can see a lot of suicidal attempts, a lot of interpersonal relationship problem within the company, a lot of negative competition modes and all those stuff. So anyone has to see from the long term point of view rather than just seeing that short term, what is the kind of productivity of the company as such.
Right. Yeah, I fully agree with you. So if you look at this from an India perspective, do you find that there are specific states which are high on this, from a suicidal tendency perspective or depression, or is it blanket across at the nation?
I didn't get your question. Specific to India?
When we look at India as a
Mhm.
country where stress and depression has been reported, or work-related stress has been reported, is this
Hmm.
blanket across all regions of India, or do you find this to be something specific to certain pockets alone? Like, for example, it's more in the north, or less in the south, or
You're talking
any
about
such data?
workplace or in
Workplace.
workplace? It doesn't depend on the state. It depends on the atmosphere in the workplace as such.
Right.
Like for example, some of the IT firms,
Hmm.
IT firms
Right.
is one place where people are more stressed out, not because only about the nature of the work, also because of the timing of the work.
Yeah.
For example, if you see the timing of their work, this is one place where they have this facility of work from home.
Right. Right.
Actually, this work from home, from our perspective, it actually disturbs the family time of that particular person. So at
Unless
least
he's able to
if I
control it
have
well.
a proper office time. Exactly, 9 to 5. If I am going home, going for office and coming back, I see that I'm working from home, of course, for traffic reasons and other things. But I start working from 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't end up even at 9 o'clock in the night. That itself takes away not only your family life, also your personal life. And
Right.
your energy is distributed across where you're not able to concentrate anywhere.
Yeah.
And
Very true.
this is one place where people are more stressed out. And somewhere where, for example, it's just not at the employees level, even at the level of directors and executive directors,
Yeah.
people have this stress of achieving. So because of that, they get into this stress related disorder and finally end up depression, sometimes attempting suicides as well.
Right. So, for the viewers, for the sake of the viewers, something that I'd like to throw as an insight is the mental health issues have significant dependence or contribution to the GDP of the country. And several studies have
Yes.
been done across the country, across the world, in terms of the amount of loss that has taken place because of mental health issues or people being burnt out and stressful. And this can go into billions. In fact, one study says it's 1 trillion is the amount of
Yes.
loss that happens in a year because of mental health related issues that have been impacting the productivity of the employees.
True.
So, having said that, in your view, what should a mental health friendly workplace look and feel like? How can we make a workplace more emotionally intelligent?
Okay, okay, fine. To answer your question, I just have slide number 10 and 11.
Okay,
Slide number
slide
10, you
number
can
10
go
and
to
11.
slide number 10.
Okay,
Yeah, we can start off with slide number 10. Most of the time, when the communication channel is restricted,
hmm
some of the, for example, communication channel is restricted between different levels. For example,
yeah,
group A, group D. Group D
right,
should be knowing what's happening with group A. Group A should be knowing what's happening with group D. Most of the time,
right,
that I don't know whether it is purposeful or it's not purposeful. But when that communication channel is clear, then it is possible, like everyone know what is happening with each other, in the sense at the different levels as well as at different departments. And the next one is, we keep having review meetings. There also should be something called as debriefing meetings, basically to check what is the emotional status of these employees, not only at the
hmm
personal level, to check about what's happening with the family. For
right,
example, sometimes most of the stuff you see in the office need not be a
hmm
source. Source can be at family level stress. Source
right,
can be some health related problems in the family, because of
right,
which you can see less productivity at work. So that's one thing which we need to do as part of debriefing. And then recognitions of individuals, as well as if it is a group work, recognizing them immediately with the kind of success of some particular projects or whatever it is. So that gives them a kind of feeling, and kind of get-togethers, and of course it happens. But the objective of get-together is, not again talking the same office-related topics even when you go out. It should be
right.
something common where they can share other than office-related things. And the next one you can see in slide number 11. One more thing what I have spoken is about creating lay counselors, peer counselors among yourselves. You can, some of the volunteers who are interested can be trained on the basic skills of counseling. So whenever
Right.
there are issues, these people can be approached, because that percentage of mental health professionals in the country itself is very less, so
Yeah,
that
true.
getting an expert into a company is much difficult. But it's
Right.
very easy to create lay counselors with help of institutions like NIMHANS or other organizations which are specialized. They can be trained over a period of time, and so that they can be, like, for example, and that's what I keep always saying, like in terrorism we have sleeper cells, so why don't we have positively these sleeper cells in the company, so that they will be able to take care of the mental health issues of the persons. So
Well
that's
put.
some of the things which we can think of to create
Right.
a mental health friendly workplace.
Do you think, in your perspective, in
Yeah,
terms of companies driving policies or putting together policies on mental health,
yeah.
do you find that most of the policies are made in order to avoid litigation, or do you find generous intent in terms of building out policies in companies which are around making it mental health friendly?
See, actually, I feel no. It's my own experience with whatever experience I have and my perspective.
Mhm.
I feel we cannot really blame the companies because, see, for example, today 3 to 4, I had a program in one of the software companies.
Right.
The kind of restrictions they put about my presentation, there were about 10 to 20 mails asking me to send the first, what is that, our framework and website, because they're so scared we will be talking something against the company, which itself says that something is happening against the employees. But again,
Right.
you're not disturbing their administrative structure and other things. We can put it in a nice way how we can take care of the mental health of the employees, which ultimately will actually only improve the productivity of the company. So one has to sit and talk. A mental health professional has to be there who has to actually lobby for it. Lobby meaning to say not for his own personal thing. It's actually for the mental health of the employees. It's actually responsibility of both the companies as well as the mental health professional or the organization.
True. So with NIMHANS or any other psychiatric agency, do you find, do you have any kits or trainings and interventions that you can share in a way that it enables either HR teams or even employers to make their workflow?
Yes, we have two things. Let me start with the first one. We have a very well developed and standardized training on, I was telling in the past, harmonizing personal, family and work life. It basically talks about what are all the different stresses at the personal, family and work life, how it comes in interaction with each other, and what are all the different management strategies. So we train, that's what I was talking about, the lay counselors, no? So these things can be given to those people so that they become a kind of master trainers. They can either put it as a training or they can even help their own colleagues or the subordinates to deal with the day-to-day stress in an effective manner. So this is a 5 days workshop which any of the company can approach us, so that they can have this workshop out of their workplace, probably in NIMHANS or in some other place, so that they will be away from their regular work. That itself is the first stress management strategy to avoid the burnout. And then the next one we have is called this, we have a well-being volunteer program where anyone can be part of it. Like every Saturdays we have a session on various aspects. And so far 60 people have been trained. This just started last year. The participants who have participated there are most of them from IT companies and then some industries, some homemakers. It's a mixed group, and they feel that very useful for their own development as well as looking at the problems in a different manner. So there we focus not only on curative aspects, we also focus on how to promote mental health, how to prevent mental health issues, and what are all the different cure for already existing mental health problems.
Right.
So they again will be part of the community, and based on those volunteers, one of that volunteer is the one who organized this workplace stress management program today. So that's how we get the link. We cannot be always too formal, or we cannot be looking for the policies. For a policy to develop, we need to have these kind of programs first, and then show this is how it works. So why don't you develop this as a policy? So that way we can show.
So is that what is barefoot consulting?
Exactly.
What is barefoot?
Exactly.
Okay.
It has different names: lay counselors, volunteer counselors, barefoot counselors, peer counselors. It depends on where you are working. If for example, even in the colleges we start this concept. So the name is not because they are not actually from a psychology background, but we can give them some inputs on various psychosocial issues which require counseling. and what are the basic counseling skills which they can apply. Sometimes they may be already applying that. It's only to reassure that this is the right way to address some of the psychosocial issues. It's something like a psychological first aid for persons who have some problems, and then later, if required, they can refer to the professionals. But 70% of the people who are given psychological first aid, they are back to normalcy without going to the experts.
Right, and this can be very situational too, right? I mean, it can be because you have either things like a promotional issue or an issue with a manager. It could be an intra-office a relationship issue. It could be a bad experience with a client.
Just a relationship between two employees, not just between interpersonal relationship, personal relationship between two employees. A lot of things are there. Yeah.
So last question from my side, and hopeful that if there are about we will probably have a couple of questions from the audience as well.
Sure.
So the final question from my end is, what is the opportunity for management people, management teams or HR professionals and social workers, psychiatry social workers to come together and work towards driving an environment change in workplace? Today, most of them, I'm so glad we had this session because there have been a few insights in terms of what is available at the moment for people to get trained on and take it forward. But apart from that, do you see the opportunity for HR guys and psychiatry social workers to work together? If yes, what would they be?
Very much. There is a lot of scope for it. But only thing is, the social workers or psychiatric social workers cannot wait for the HR guys to visit them. Rather, it should be the other way, where you need to actually, bang their doors with these facts, not in a very aggressive manner, more in an assertive manner. And once when they say yes, and once when we prove that through the programs, they are the one who will be approaching again to do this kind of programs or to set up these kind of sessions, which I have experienced from my point of view. So that's where the social workers should not feel low. Like, how can they're all HR guys, how can I approach them? No. Actually, they may not have any idea about the mental health issues. Probably they will be very good at administrative related issues or personnel related issues. Right. But we are the ones, first of all, we need to sensitize them. Probably we can even make an opportunity to sensitize these HR department persons. How? By providing this mental health program, ultimately their objective will be what is the productivity of the company. So we as social workers always need to link this mental health related programs to the productivity. So from our side, it's just not the company related productivity, also at the personal and family related stuff. So that's how we have a scope for it.
Awesome. Shafiq, are there any questions from the audience so far? Nothing yet. Any final words from you, Doctor, in terms of the way forward?
That's what. Final words, you can go to my the last slide, wellness cycle.
Okay. The last slide, wellness cycle.
12 slides. Stressors do happen. We cannot make the stressors. Only dead bodies do not have stressors. So to some extent, we need to have a little bit of stress, which will help us to achieve. But that warning signs also we need to be aware, so that on right time we can use the positive coping strategies as given in that slide, 12th slide, which talks about assertiveness, time management, physiological, emotional things in a long term, which will increase our self-esteem, self-confidence, which will improve our physical health, mental health, which leads to the increased productivity, enjoyment and intimacy towards life. So it just not, we don't just live years. We live life, whatever we live, the number of years we live, it gives life to the number of years we live. So that's one thing which we need to think whenever we are under stress. So don't try to reduce the stresses, let us try to manage the stresses in a positive manner.
Right. I have one question that's coming up from the audience right now.
Please.
On creating lay counselors, have you ever come across any such good practices in organizations, or could you suggest a model for developing lay counselors?
Developing a lay counselor model, it depends on whether a particular company requires those number of lay counselors. One of the models is the well-being from different walks of life. And best practices, I would say, like, by creating these well-being volunteers in the last 4 months, I could get some 70. Suppose if they were not trained, the 60 and their course here. And it is just they have also organized programs not only in the companies as well as in the apartments. Now we call as modern villages cities, but still in those villages, in the apartments, there are a lot of problems that they don't know each other. So these are the lay counselors who create that kind of mental health environment where everyone come together and come to know about what is positive mental health, how to create mental health environment. So these are all some of the outcomes of just creating these well-being volunteers. Of course, the outcomes will be slow, but it will be steady as I increase the number.
Right.
So it depends on which context you want to train the lay volunteers. If it is from the same organization, you can expect a steady outcome as well as more outcome. If it is from different walks of life, we as professionals are the one who need to tap the outcomes which is being given by them.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions, Shafiq? All right. Awesome. Thank you, Doctor. It was a wonderful chat, and I think it was quite deep in terms of the perspectives that you threw. I think we have quite a bit of insight today in terms of right from models existing to create lay counselors. The concept of barefoot consulting, counseling, so that you build the gap that is existing today between the psychiatric professionals to the demand that is available is immense. And an intervention like this is what is going to actually drive positive mental health, because you need an ancillary support that can work this out for organizations. One of the fundamentals that come up here is how do you identify who will become a good lay counselor? How do you trust a lay counselor? Because that's a huge issue, right? If I have an issue that is disturbing me, I need to be able to go and speak to someone. Do you have any thoughts on what kind of a person should we pick to develop as a lay counselor?
Whoever has the interest to become lay counselor. It should not be by force, because they are all called as lay counselors. They can extend the support only to some extent, which means all are eligible to provide the support to some extent. Only the interest from their side. So that's only because in our being volunteers, we have volunteers at 60 years. We also have volunteers who are college goers, post-graduation college goers. So that's what it is.
Very well. So for the viewers, please do take note that if you were to ever reach out to NIMHANS as a credible, responsible organization in India, there is help available for development of professionals as lay counselors, as to understand the whole perspective of barefoot counseling, to be the one who champions positive mental health, not only within your companies but also in any other community that you're a part of. And given how the situation is going to change in the next 5 years, the extent of opportunity that is available for you to be enabled and be available to drive positive mental health is immense, because AI and IoT and all the other business practices is going to see quite a bit of people in under stress, because a lot of people are going to lose jobs. Some of them are going to have to change their job, which is most comfortable at this point in time, and move on to something else. And it's that change itself is going to create a lot of stress. Some of them are going to come up with assumptions that I'm being changed because I'm not good enough, or those kind of assumptions will drive some of their feelings, and let down their burnout and stress can be because of that. So find the opportunity, evaluate if there are peers or amongst you, if there are people who would like to be um, available to develop yourselves as mental health supporters, as an ancillary wheel. With that, Dr. Arvind, thank you very much for your time. Uh, as a closing note, in our workspaces, we don't recognize particular behaviors as mental illness, and we tend to generalize it as an attitude or a bad behavior of the person,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes as crazy behaviors as well, right? So most times it is the opposite. He might be fighting something inside himself.
Yes,
He has his own demons to fight, and he needs help. And
exactly.
your as peers and my compatriots in the alumni, I think it requires you to take that one extra step to break that ice and see how you can be accessible and reachable to these people. In business, the issue of productivity is going to be more impacted due to presenteeism, which would mean that the person comes to office, he is sitting in your desk, he's sitting on the
Present.
computer, nothing productive is going to come out of this guy than absenteeism. So you're you're in a better off position by asking the person to probably go on a rest for a bit of a while with great intent, rather
Yeah.
than in any situation where the person views this to be a reprimanding for whatever behavior that he has, and that might end up being a little more productive to even contributing to your business numbers, as compared to expecting and ensuring that force is there and people are available at your workplace. It's just not going to contribute to the right
Yeah. Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
um, so with that, I would like to end this first episode of Logos. Please feel free to share your feedback with us. Write to us on HRxClub at gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out live the next time, and also share whatever the recorded version that's available within your community. And watch out for our next episode on Label or Roundup in 2017. And this will happen on the 24th of this month, that is in the next fortnight. So long, have a wonderful night, and see you again in a fortnight.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
On average 15 people were there.
15. That's okay.
18 വരെ പോയി.
Eh?
18 വരെ പോയി.
18 drop out.